There is a part of midlife, let me just be honest with you. There is a part of midlife you aren't prepared for. And to be honest, literally nothing can prepare you for this piece of midlife. It's going to happen. It's going to hit you right in the face, and nothing prepares you for it, right? Well, Dr. Natalie is going to probably try to spin something out of this. I do have some thoughts on how to better prepare us for it, and I'd like to share that with you today. But I want you to be just prepared that the thing I'm going to tell you, it's a hard thing to hear. It's a piece of the midlife transition and process that we can't say no to. It just is going to happen no matter what we try. And even though we want to pretend it's not happening, it'll hit us between the eyes and we're going to have to face it. We're going to have to do something with it. I think it helps to be prepared, to know it's coming, even though you can't be completely prepared for what impact it'll have within your life. So keep listening. Welcome. This is Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving, a podcast that teaches women in midlife to unapologetically stop silencing their dreams and start designing the lives they want to live in. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie, and as a clinical psychologist of the last 2 decades and a twice-divorced single mother myself, I not only know how hard it can feel heading into midlife, I am living it right here with you. I have taken all the many failed attempts and lessons learned in my own life and combine it with my extensive clinical experience to give you the tools you need to make midlife the best time in your life. No joke. So let's get started. Welcome back to Midlife Crisis to a Centered Life Thriving. I got to be honest with you guys. I just spent the last 20 minutes recording this, except it wasn't recording. So hopefully the second time is the charm, and I get this on recording, and you get to hear what I have to say. So I'm sure you're wondering, what in the heck? It's not a very nobody wants to hear that there's something they're not going to be prepared for in their midlife transition. So I'm sure you're not on pins and needles. I'm sure you're more like, really, you're going to tell me something about this. But yes, I am, because I think, as I said in the intro, I just think that if we know of it, it does give us some advantage, but it won't prepare us, because nothing really prepares you for this, right? So the thing that we're never prepared for is that the life that we have built is no longer going to work for us. That is what midlife transition is. And if we rail against that and try to make the life that we've built for ourselves work for us going forward, that's where midlife crisis happens. The transition really is into a new version of yourself. Now, you're going to look and be and have the same values. I hope so. I'm not saying that you need to be an entirely different person. What I'm saying is that nothing really prepares you for the fact that what midlife is showing you, is reflecting back at you, is that the life you've built so far no longer will work. No longer will work. You created habits and things that you do that worked up until this point, that worked to sustain the life that you have been in. And it won't work for you anymore. It won't. Let me give you an example. Let's just say that you are somebody, like most women, that has that caretaking role, right? And the caretaking role that we have been, in my opinion, misogynistically kind of duped into, it has this flavor of self-betrayal, self-sacrifice, as a way to kind of earn your clout as a caretaker. So, you do for your kids, and you do for your spouse, and you do for your work people, and you come second, third, fourth, Sometimes we're so far down on the list, I don't even know where we land. It really depends. Now, not every woman has this in, a clinical level. I'm a psychologist. Not all of us are like struggling with this, but some of us have just in autopilot. They need it before I need it. I got to do this before I earn doing something for myself, right? Like this is nothing new to this podcast for sure that we've talked about, but it's nothing new to you either. And I can tell you for certain that that will be a pain point in midlife transition for women who are in that caretaking role and have kind of have some automaticity to, I just do for others. I don't even notice that I'm self-sacrificing or I'm choosing myself second or third or fourth or fifth. That's going to be a pain point. That's not going to work for you anymore. It's just not. But there's another layer of it that I think is pretty surprising. So I'll give you a cute example that happened to me this morning. So we have 2 cats in my house and they're not mine. I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog person. But my daughter really wanted cats. And for her 8th birthday, I got her these 2 kittens. It was supposed to be 1 kitten, but one of them was like really not, is so shy, so painfully shy that they said it had to go with its brother who was not painfully shy. So now we have a brother and sister duo in our household. Not my cats, what she wanted. And the reason she was ready for it at 8, I thought, was because we had done some cat sitting, some pet sitting, and she was doing the things. She was giving them water, she was feeding them, she was doing all the things. I hate them. I hate not the cats, but all of those duties. I hate cleaning litter boxes and schlepping it out to the garbage and feeding them and watering them and all of those things. So the deal was she really needed to be an investing partner in this. Actually, she did really well when she was 8 and 9. She's, a tween now. And so we got some issues because there's other things that are more important in her little life. And so I find myself many mornings with a squawking cat at me if I don't feed it. So I got out the food and it was a brand new bag this morning and I cut the top of it off to scoop out the cup because I also have a kind of overweight cat because we kind of overfed him for a while. So we have to portion out his food. And I'm putting, I'm cutting the bag and I'm trying to scoop it and he keeps getting up on the counter and I've pushed him down a couple times and I'm really irritated about it. It's also the day that I take the litter out to the garbage. So I was just kind of in a mood of, I don't want to do this no, I don't. And the 3rd time he got up, I just yelled. I was like, get out of here. So my daughter comes downstairs and she's like, oh, why are you yelling at my cats? Like, that's just what they do. Why are you being so mean? So this is kind of a cute example of the place where the pain point is going to surprise you the most is in the things you do automatically that no longer serve you for the people you love. It isn't setting boundaries with people who are jerks, right? Like it would be kind of easy in midlife to just excise out the assholes. Like we could start to go through and be like, and I'm not going to do that. And I'm done with this person at work and do. Like that would be kind of easy. And you'll have to do that too. But the pain point, the place where it's going to be interesting is here is this person I love, dearly, my daughter, not her cats, love dearly. And I'm disappointing her because this is a thing that I need to say no to. I need to get her on the bus of, remember, these are your children. Like, this is how this works. You need to feed them. Instead of just automatically going into the mode of doing for, right? Another place that this has come up for me is in some friendships, right? Like the ones that, they need support. They seek advice. They want your opinion. And a lot of the interactions that you have with them is kind of around that stuff. And you've always been the friend that always picks up the phone, always, right? Always has a minute, always has 10, 20 minutes maybe to talk, always answers the text, always, does the thing that you need. No, you're not going to have that bandwidth. You have built a life around being this person. And I want you to hold that value. I do want you to have your integrity. However, if you continue to do that and self-betray and self-sacrifice, the bandwidth that's already being depleted by estrogen levels going down and all of the cascade of things that go with that, like you're irritable, right? We talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago in my other podcast. Like, the irritability is the number one symptom in perimenopause and menopause. I would say in midlife, because your life that you have built for yourself is not going to work. You need to adjust. You need to do differently for yourself. And the places that are gonna surprise you are in the places where it's a sacrifice for you. It's an adjustment for you. It's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's excruciatingly uncomfortable to make the choice to say no to some things. And you got to do it. And you got to do it. Like, there's just no way about it, right? In my courses, my last course is called The New You, and there is an entire lesson within that course on the grief stages, right? So it's, what is it? It's, denial, anger, bargaining, getting numb, and eventually we try to get to acceptance and making meaning, those 6 stages to the grief process. And I teach about it. In my group coaching, I used to teach about it, but I teach about it in my courses online because I find it to be a skill set that we lack in America. We're not great. We like to pretend that there's never a loss, or that we could overcome a loss, or I don't know, like we can outsmart a loss. We can plan for a loss. We can worry word our way into having a plan. No, this is not how this works. Aging is change over time, right? But change is loss. Change means the thing that came before is no longer, and the thing that comes after is what we're going towards. I think in Western culture, we're always about the thing we're going towards. We're so goal oriented that we have really neglected the part of us that holds space and grieves the loss of what we're leaving. And I think that is the skill set that can best prepare you. Now, just like when you lose a person, they got diagnosed with something, you're with them for a long time, and then they eventually pass. Grief is not like a cure for loss. It is a manner in which you will go through stages and let yourself feel your feels and be able to live with your loss, right? I usually talk about it like, the loss is like a big bomb that goes off in the center of your life. So now you have a hole in the center of your life. And grieving kind of grows us around the hole. The hole never goes away, but we get bigger around that hole, more resilient, more resourceful, more able to handle the bandwidth for our losses. And that's the skill set that I would encourage you to start to think about and learn about. If you haven't, you need to know how to grieve well, right? Let's take parenting, right? I think especially for mothers. So as you're going through what we call culturally empty nesting, what's most profound about that, I think, is that you've been in a hustle for so long with it, right? Because you built this life around the hustle, and you're the hustle kind of keeper, the one that does all the things and knows where everything is happening. You haven't grieved the younger versions of that child. Every once in a while you glimpse at it, right? You look at a picture of a 3-year-old version of your 16-year-old and it brings tears to your eyes. But you don't give yourself space and time to really grieve it. And that's what's happening all through your children's childhood. They're an infant and you're just in love with this little infant. And then just blink of an eye, you've got a toddler, and you're so excited about the fun stuff that this little toddler is getting into that you haven't really grieved the loss of that little infant. And then that toddler is, preschooler, and they're asking these fascinating questions, and they're just like keeping you on your toes all the time. And so you won't really, pay attention to that toddler is gone, and now they're in school and they have even more questions, and they're learning how to be friends, and they're engaging in group activities, and you're watching them kind of become the little humans that they're going to be, right? And then there's adolescence, and we all just really love that. And I'm just kidding. But really, like, then they individuate, then they kind of learn to be their own person separate from us. And we watch that happen in stages until they leave our houses and become young adults. and even watch it through young adulthood. But with each and every one of those stages, you've lost a different child. And when that child walks out that door, when you drop them off at a dorm, when you help them decorate out their apartment and they're not living in your basements anymore, you grieve all of those children at the same time if you have not learned to grieve as you go. It is these pain points, this life that you've built for yourself, it can't come with you, my friend. It won't come with you, and it won't serve you. The way you've been up until this point, the places where you're feeling the most angst is around where you are trying to bargain and force being the old version of you when it's not working for you, when you're screaming at a cat. Like, I don't need to scream at a cat. The cat is a cat. It's jumping up. It wants to eat. It's the same thing every day. I was just annoyed because I had just opened up a bag of food and I thought it was going to fall over. Like that's not their fault. It's not my daughter's fault that I am spending way too many hours of my day in that automatic mode of caretaking that's taking away from my bandwidth. This part of my life does not serve me. And then there are losses that you're going to feel as you change, right? So those friends that you always pick up the phone for, if you set boundaries around that, you might start looking around and you don't have those friends. You served a purpose and they for you. And I mean, I would say you probably built some self-worth off being the person that was, the person they called, right? I would say, you've built some self-worth off being the super mom and doing all those things if that was your gig. Or I would say that you built your self-worth off being the one that was the overachiever at work and like took a project to the nth degree and did more than anybody else on the team. And I am going to guess that these are the pain points, the places you would like to not choose to change, the places you wanted to keep, that you're realizing in midlife, holy balls, like I am not going to be able to keep up with this. And so it's hard and it's painful to start to change. And the people that benefited from the older version of you, they might not be on the other side of this. There's a very lonely piece to this midlife transition, but loneliness is the toll. That's what I would tell you. It tells you you're on the right track. And on the other side of this, there is a great life with people around you and it works for you, right? So that's the goal that we want to go towards, but we're grieving right now. We're in the lonely stage of, I have to say goodbye to, if I was like this, if I showed up like this in my life, it meant that these were the people around and this was the stuff I was doing. And some of that is just going to go, because if I force or deny or bargain in my grief that I'll just do what I've always done, that's where the midlife crisis shows up. That is where midlife transition turns into something that's negative for you versus acceptance and making meaning of, that was a great life that I've had in my adult life up until this point. And now a new version of me needs to come out. I'm growing, right? That, my friends, is a centered life, thriving. Because I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, I have to make sure at the end of each of these episodes that I give you the disclaimer that none of the material that I talk about in these podcasts is meant to replace any kind of therapy or formal medical or mental health treatment. And in fact, anything that I offer on my website, my coaching programs, any kind of psychoeducational materials that I release are not a replacement for that level of care. So just take that into account when you listen. This is information for you, and hopefully you find it of value, both as an educational tool and for your entertainment. And I also want to mention that if anyone you know is in a mental health crisis, needs additional help, I always include these two crisis resources. They're available to anybody. Pick up the phone and dial 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And you can always visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Additionally, there's actually a crisis text line. So if you're not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, text HOME to 741-741 to the crisis text line. And you can find them online at crisis.Textline.org. Thank you for listening to my podcast. And I hope that you like and follow me wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe consider leaving me a review. It always helps me to keep this podcast relevant when I know what you want to hear about.